Okay, so picture this. You've got this billionaire, right? Built up, what, nearly $7 billion?
Yeah, mostly from that early Facebook bet back in 2009.
Exactly. And then years later, he just quietly gives up his Russian citizenship.
No big announcement, no press conference, just done. Avoids the spotlight completely.
Which is kind of the whole story with him, isn't it? This guy, Yuri Milner, he's this paradox.
Definitely. A theoretical physicist, born in the Soviet Union, never built a startup himself, stayed away from media, yet somehow became this, well, incredibly influential tech investor.
And he didn't just make money, he sort of redefined wealth, bet big on digital platforms way early, and even started looking towards, like, the stars, all while playing this 50-year game, as he calls it.
It's a fascinating mindset.
So that's what we're diving into today. We want to unpack the thinking, the strategies of Yuri Milner, this really quietly powerful figure.
Yeah, our mission here is to pull out the key insights from everything we've read about his approach, wealth, influence, impact, and try to figure out why silence seems to be his biggest asset.
Okay, let's dig in. Where do we start? His background seems pretty key.
Absolutely. You have to understand where he came from. Soviet Moscow. His parents were intellectuals, right? An economist father, a mother in medicine, books everywhere, but money. Money was abstract, almost suspect.
Not exactly a breeding ground for a future multi-billionaire investor.
Not at all. He studied theoretical physics at Moscow State, worked in a government lab. It makes his transformation into this, almost $7 billion investor even more remarkable.
So how did that background shape his view of money then? Because it seems completely different.
It really is. That's maybe the most crucial part. For Milner, wealth isn't the end goal. It's not a score. He calls it a multiplier of purpose.
A multiplier of purpose. What does that actually mean in practice?
It means he wasn't chasing returns in the traditional sense. He was chasing reach. How could capital amplify ideas, projects, platforms to a global scale?
Ah, that connects to his time at Wharton, right? He didn't stay long.
Yeah, exactly. He went in the early 90s, but dropped out. He found Wall Street's focus arbitrage, speculation kind of empty. It didn't align with his thinking.
What was he interested in instead?
Leverage, but not financial leverage in the Wall Street sense. He was fascinated by how technology could provide leverage to scale ideas globally. That's what pulled him towards tech investing.
And eventually towards Facebook. So the billions he made weren't the destination.
He saw it as ignition, fuel for something bigger. That's why in 2012, he and his wife, Julia, signed the Giving Pledge. They committed to giving away most of it.
For causes that push humanity forward, I think was the phrase.
Right, and that wasn't just talk. It led directly to the Breakthrough Prize, also founded in 2012.
That's the huge science prize, right? Like $3 million awards.
Yeah, for physics, life sciences, mathematics.
Right.
It's actually the biggest science prize globally now, bigger than the Nobel in terms of purse size.
Why do that? What was the goal?
He talked about narrative power. He felt the brilliant scientists shaping our future deserved the same kind of recognition as, movie stars or tech founders. Give science a better story, basically.
Redirecting capital to redirect attention. It's a different way of thinking about wealth.
Completely. Less about personal gain, more about amplifying discovery.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly for the Facebook bet, because that was, well, incredibly bold at the time. Let's paint the picture. May 2009.
Yeah, think about it. The global financial crisis had just hammered everyone. Facebook, still unprofitable. Business model, unproven. Mark Zuckerberg was, 25? Not yet the icon he is now.
And Wall Street was steering clear. They wanted solid numbers, proof of concept.
But Milner didn't wait for that. His firm, DST Global, went to Facebook with this offer that just stunned people.
The $200 million offer.
Right. $200 million for just under 2%, 1.96%. Yeah. Specifically. And here's the kicker. No board seat, no voting rights, no demands to micromanage.
Just cash and belief.
Pretty much. Pure capital, pure trust in the platform's potential. Zuckerberg said yes, and apparently the deal closed in about 2 weeks.
Wow. Someone called it the fastest major investment Facebook ever closed.
Makes sense. And the payoff, well, we know how that turned out.
Yeah, when Facebook IPO'd in May 2012, its market cap was huge, nearly $104 billion. That $200 million turned into billions.
Just multiplied incredibly. And DST didn't stop there. They got in early on Twitter, Airbnb, WhatsApp, Alibaba, Spotify, Snapchat, often way before they were obvious bets.
So what was Milner seeing that others weren't? What was his edge?
It wasn't traditional metrics. He focused on network scale and viral velocity. He had this deep belief that platforms connecting millions of people organically where usage spread like wildfire. It created a moat, a competitive advantage, stronger than anything you'd see on a balance sheet.
He was investing in behavior.
Exactly. He had this quote, "We invest before the revenue, before the profits, before the IPO, because that's where the truth lives." He was betting on how people connect and share.
Which is fundamentally different from how Wall Street typically evaluates a company.
Totally. It was contrarian, quiet, data-driven, looking globally, not just Silicon Valley. And importantly, no hype, no TED Talks, no constant tweeting, no self-promotion like other tech titans.
Which brings us to this whole idea of his invisibility. It seems like a very deliberate choice.
Oh, absolutely deliberate. In a world where investors, especially in tech, are building personal brands, speaking at conferences, becoming influencers, Milner basically vanished from public view.
No public social media, right? No foundation named after himself. Doesn't do the podcast circuit.
Nothing. He operates from his estate in Los Altos Hills, California. DST Global, his firm, is tiny. Fewer than 15 people, reportedly. No giant glass headquarters.
So what's the strategy there? Why stay so hidden?
To protect clarity. That seems to be his most valued asset. His routine is apparently reading internal research, focusing on primary signals, user adoption curves, engagement loops, retention rates, not news headlines.
He thinks that by the time something is news, it's already too late for investment insight.
That's his philosophy. Avoid the noise. Focus on the underlying signal. It preserves mental bandwidth, allows for clearer decisions.
There was that quote from a former partner, something like, "Yuri doesn't raise his voice, he raises the floor under you."
Yeah, that captures it well. It suggests a quiet confidence, a focus on substance. This minimalist approach extends to how he operates, too.
Like avoiding unnecessary meetings, not chasing every hot deal.
Exactly. His biggest successes, like Facebook, Alibaba, they weren't won in bidding wars. They came from identifying the signal early, often through just tracking data, and then making a decisive move with significant capital, but without demanding control.
It's like he flipped the Silicon Valley script. Others scale their companies, build huge teams, chase fame.
While Milner keeps his own operation lean, stays invisible, and builds leverage through the platforms he invests in, not through his personal brand. It's structural influence over personal visibility.
Okay, so if he's not chasing fame or material things in the usual way, what is he chasing? Which leads us to the cosmos, right? That seems like a very different direction.
It does on the surface.
Yeah.
But I think it's deeply connected to his core philosophy. Instead of buying, super yachts or islands, he gets involved in funding massive science projects aimed at the stars.
Like Breakthrough Listen, that was with Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, launched in 2015, a $100 million initiative. It's basically the biggest, most comprehensive search ever for signals from extraterrestrial intelligence, scanning the universe.
And for him, it wasn't just like a cool side project.
Apparently not. Sources suggest it was quite personal. He saw the silence from the cosmos, not as a reason to stop looking, but as a motivation to look harder, more systematically.
And then came Breakthrough Starshot in 2016. That one sounds like science fiction.
It kind of does. The goal is to develop technology for tiny, light-propelled spacecraft nanosails, essentially pushed by Earth-based lasers.
To send them where?
To Alpha Centauri, our nearest star system, over 4 light years away. The idea is to get them traveling at maybe 20% the speed of light.
Which means they could get there in decades, not centuries.
Yeah, potentially arriving in just over 20 years. The mission, to actually send back images, to see if there are planets, maybe even signs of life up close.
Wow. Okay, so how does this connect back to his investment strategy or his worldview?
It's all about the long game. These projects are incredibly long-term, purpose-driven, and they won't yield results or applause anytime soon. It mirrors his investment style, patient, focused on fundamental questions, unconcerned with short-term noise.
He said, we should plan for the long game, the very long game.
Exactly. And remember the giving pledge, donating the fortune not just to charity, but specifically to discovery, science, education, tech with that long horizon impact. The cosmic stuff fits perfectly.
So it's like his frame of reference isn't just global markets, it's bigger.
Much bigger. He had another quote, "I don't believe the earth is the limit. I believe we are part of something much larger." When you operate with that kind of perspective, your decisions aren't easily swayed by market panics or media cycles.
You become, as the source said, immune to noise.
Precisely. You're not reacting. You're building towards a very distant horizon.
Okay, let's pivot slightly. This global, almost post-national perspective seems really relevant to his decision in 2022, renouncing his Russian citizenship.
Yeah, that was a significant move, especially given the timing with geopolitical tensions escalating after the invasion of Ukraine.
Below.
But again, notice how he did it.
Quietly. No big statement, no press conference, just a formal renunciation.
Right. This is someone who had been, at times, labeled Russia's richest man in Silicon Valley, even though he always maintained his distance, legally cutting ties with his birth country without making a political show of it.
How does that redefine influence? Usually billionaires are tied to nations, they lobby governments.
Milner seems to reject that model. His influence isn't tied to a flag or a political party. It flows through the infrastructure he helped build.
The platforms. Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Alibaba.
Exactly. Think about it. DST's early investments meant he helped shape the literal scaffolding of human communication and commerce, used by billions globally. That's immense influence, achieved without a public persona or a nationalist agenda.
He did make that rare statement when pressed about Russian ties, didn't he?
He did. He said very clearly, "Most of my wealth was created outside of Russia. I have never met Vladimir Putin."
The message being,
Power doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be tied to national loyalty. His power comes from insight, capital, and the networks he helped enable. By refusing to play the nationalist game, he maintained freedom to operate globally, bound by his vision, not by allegiance.
which brings us back to the 50-year game. This sounds like his core operating system.
It really does. He approaches investing like a physicist, apparently, thinking about distance, precision, long time horizons, decades, maybe centuries.
And DST Global is structured for that.
Seems so. They avoid short-term activism. They don't usually take controlling stakes. They rarely interfere in management. The model is get in early based on deep analysis, stay quiet, and hold for the long term.
Someone described his view of investing as a physics problem with emotional noise.
I love that. It explains his stability during crises. Dot-com bust, 2008 crash, COVID pandemic, sanctions impacting Russian oligarchs. Milner's strategy didn't seem to waver.
No panic selling, no reacting to the fear in the headlines.
Because he's trying to see the underlying structure, the physics, beneath the emotional chaos. That's presumably how he could double down on Facebook in 2010 when many were still skeptical. He saw the long-term trajectory.
So ultimately, his superpower is patience.
Patience grounded in a very specific analytical framework. His playbook isn't for the next quarter. It's for 2050 or beyond. He lets math, logic, and clarity guide him.
He doesn't out-talk the world, he outweights it.
That sums it up perfectly.
What an incredible arc. Yuri Milner, the billionaire who essentially chose to disappear. From his homeland, from the news cycles, even from traditional ideas of legacy.
And in doing that, maybe he found something more valuable than all the billions or the fame he avoided. Clarity.
The kind of clarity that comes when you detach, right? When your identity isn't tied to a nation, your success isn't measured by headlines, and your timeline isn't dictated by quarterly results.
Think about it. He never built a physical product himself. He never courted virality. He barely spoke in public. Yet, billions of us live parts of our lives on platforms he helped fund. We engage with ideas from scientists he supports. We might even look to the stars with a bit more curiosity because of projects he initiated.
So his true asset isn't the $6.9 billion.
No, it's the lens, the way he sees the world. Shaped by physics, you could say. Sharpened by his deliberate silence. Anchored in that incredible patience.
Where most people in his position seem to chase control, influence in the obvious sense, he just builds gravity, quietly pulling things towards a long-term vision.
And maybe that's the real takeaway here for all of us. Power doesn't always need to shout. Sometimes, the most enduring influence is the one that waits, the one that observes, the one that builds silently.
So as you listen to this, maybe take a moment. In our incredibly noisy world, constantly demanding attention and visibility, what if true strength, lasting impact actually comes from the opposite, from finding clarity in silence, from playing the long game with patience?
How do you define influence? Does it have to be loud? Does it have to be seen?
Something to think about. Maybe the most powerful moves are the ones made quietly, the truths that don't need advertising. Maybe we should all listen to the silence a bit more.